Irashaimase. Hello and welcome to Fataris' Kitchen. I'm your host, Chef Fataris. It's time once again for Shoot 'em Up Saturday, and on the menu this week we have Game Type DX, a loop-based score attack shooter. What kind of taste will it have? Let's get cooking and find out. From developer Mommy's Best Games, Game Type originally released on the PC for Steam in 2015. Now in 2022, we have Game Type DX for the Xbox family of consoles as well as the Nintendo Switch, which is the version we're looking at today. So this title is all about setting the best scores you can in a loop-based system. And at best I can say this is a mediocre shoot 'em up, so it's not really one that I can recommend, but it does have a couple interesting bits of gameplay to it that I've enjoyed my time with it. It's just one that I feel you would get bored with relatively quickly. So for some short playthroughs, it might not be bad, but it's not really one that I can recommend. So with that said, diving into the game itself, there's an interesting gimmick with the story. So you're playing a character, Hoodie Girl, who's fighting against Media Ball, who we can see here in the welcome here. And the game itself is hidden among these like sets of ads. That's part of the whole idea. So it's meant to look like, say, a really bad version of like an Xbox 360 menu or something like that. So it is possible to warp directly to the game start itself, but if you didn't, you can turn on hints where it gives you arrows on where to go, or if you didn't have the hints turned on, you just have to dig through the menus, and there are story bits with these various ads. But ultimately, to get to the game itself, we have to go to Games, and then it's not just here, it's under the Game Store, and then over one more page, we finally see Game Type. Selecting that, we're actually taken to this menu. So starting the game, there's the original version, which was released in the main Steam one. It kind of gives a description of what's going on with the modes here. So this one is the hand design that is the same every time. There's the new remix one, which is once again hand design stage. So once again, you'll experience basically the same type of gameplay. And then the surprise, which gives you a randomly generated assortment of levels. So procedurally generated. So to show off the game, we'll pick original, and it's possible to play this game in co-op. That is also the case in the original game as well. Once you've selected how many players you're playing with, you can select your time mode, either infinite or 3-minute. We'll just pick 3-minute to kind of show off the game. Then Parkour. This is Game Type DX. So it's a horizontal scrolling shoot 'em up where we've got two attacks to use. There's our primary attack, which is the slap shot, basically throwing these hands at these enemy advertisements that are attacking us for some bizarre reason. And then we also have our more powerful kick beam. The kick beam itself also has charge mechanic to it, where it does have energy that gets depleted as we fire it. What do we need to recharge it? That money these enemies are dropping as we defeat them. There's also one other effect, well actually a couple other effects for the kick beam. It acts as kind of a focus shot, so it slows down our movement, and it will also slow enemy bullets. So if we fire it at the enemy bullets, we'll see that the bullets are momentarily slowed down. That can definitely be beneficial to get yourself out of tough spots, but it can create some problems as well, as you'll slow down an enemy shot, and then that shot will accelerate when either you run out of kick beam to use or you release the beam itself. So releasing your shot, either your normal shot or your kick beam, will suck up all the money that you've earned through defeating enemies, making it a little bit easier to continue using your more powerful kick beam or just aiming for a higher score. So since this is a score attack, that's primarily what we're looking to do. Collecting money will increase your multiplier, and as well as recharging the kick beam, and which maxes out at 10. If you go for too long without collecting any money, then your multiplier will decrease. There's one more mechanic that I haven't discussed as well, and that's the time rather time pulse. So when you activate the time pulse, it basically slows down time, and that allows you to do a couple things. It both allows you to dodge enemies, and if there happen to be a lot of enemy bullets on screen, you can use the kick beam to turn all the enemy bullets on screen into money, thus equaling big points. You do have to be careful though. The time pulse is limited. There are pickup items to increase your time pulse, and every single time you complete a loop, then you'll get an additional time pulse. What's a loop? So the game is basically broken into these waves, and once you complete the set of waves, the game loops again, increasing the difficulty and potentially adding in additional enemies and even additional loops with bosses and that sort of thing. We're not really going to see anything like that with this particular playthrough style though, as the time-based one doesn't allow enough time to get to the end of a loop that has the game's boss, Chat Cat. Unfortunately, with the time I've spent with the game, I've only seen one boss, so I don't actually know if there's more than that, but it just kind of highlights one problem I have with the game, and that's that it just doesn't feel that there's enough variety to the loops, to the enemies, basically to the gameplay itself. So once you complete a run, you can submit your score to the leaderboard. Unfortunately, it looks like I'm having some issue doing so. So, starting the game again will show off the randomly generated mode while I go and wrap up my thoughts, as basically that is game type served up for your enjoyment. So, for our purposes, we'll just switch it to Infinite now and Parkour! So, as I was saying, game type ultimately just comes across as a relatively mediocre score attack. It's not a bad game per se, but at the end of the day, it's one that I feel you would ultimately get bored with after a little bit of time with it. As far as the minus flavors are concerned, so the big one I have is it just doesn't feel like there's enough variety to what's going on in the base modes. With like at least having a randomized mode, you can experience something a little bit different each time you play through it. But I'm not 100% sure if that's really enough to like save this game from the mediocrity that I just feel it has. As far as the plus flavors are concerned, I do like the scoring mechanics of having the multipliers and the money both acting as your score, as well as the power-up for your more powerful attack. And the fact that there is some reasonable co-op opportunity here is also a big plus in my mind as well. And there you have it. That's Game Type DX served up for your enjoyment. Well, that'll just about bring us to the end of this week's episode of Shoot 'em Up Saturday. As always, I want to thank you so much for joining us this week. I hope you yourself have a wonderful week, and we'll see you next time.